What up, everybody? This is your boy Dedrian from House of Rasslin, and this is my review for the December 14th episode of AEW Dynamite. Winter is coming. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification so that you're notified when the House of Rasslin drops its latest content. Follow me, Dedrian180, on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. So, tonight's AEW Dynamite. Man, I had a blast watching this. Shout out to that, I believe it was in Austin, that Austin crowd. Man, that crowd made this show. This was a fun, entertaining show to watch from AEW. And shout out to them for putting on a great show. And there's a lot of buzz surrounding them going into 2023. Specifically that January 11th Dynamite, hailing from Los Angeles at the Forum. We all know the rumors and stuff like that going around, but man, tonight's AEW Dynamite, this was a fun show. This was a well-paced show. There's a few hiccups as far as the transitions from match graphics and Excalibur and Taz, and there's a few hiccups there, but for the most part, I mean, they did a really good job. Shout out to the commentary team. Little things that they mentioned on commentary to add to the storylines that they're telling. I really enjoyed that. Man, I don't know what else to say, but man, I really love this show. There was a big upset on this show that, when I mean big upset, like no one expected this guy to win, and he won, and it was crazy because in all the years that I've been watching wrestling, I've never seen anything like that, and I'll get into that a little bit later in this review, but man, like I always do, let's get into these results and then my breakdown of this episode of AEW Dynamite. Winter is coming. So we started off with Death Triangle. They defeated the Elite, and now they're up 3-1 in the series. Well, the match series or what have you. And we know that next week is, I was going to say Game 6. Match 5? Yeah. Tonight was 3-1. Yeah, this was 4. 5. Yeah, next week is 5. Then the following week, 6. Then the first week of January is no match because Kenny Omega's wrestling at Wrestle Kingdom against Ospreay. And then the 7th match is going to be, if necessary, which we know it's going to be, go to match 7, is going to be at the Forum. And from what commentary described, that it will be, man, what did they say? It was like I know next week is no count out, no disqualification. Actually, no, now I remember. So, match 7, if it goes there, which we know it will be a ladder match. So, that card is pretty much slowly getting stacked. We do have the women's tag team match with Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter versus Saraya and her mystery opponent, which a lot of money on that speculation and everything. And then you're going to have the ladder match, which, man, that's insane to think of what else that card is going to have going in Los Angeles. So I'm geeked for that show, and mind you, we're pretty much a little less than a month away, and I am geeked for that show and Wrestle Kingdom as well. So you had Death Triangle, like I said, defeat the Elite. You had Jungle Boy Jack Perry. He defeated Brian Cage. You had the House of Black literally squash the Factory. You had, in the biggest upset in AEW this year, and probably in their history, you had Action Andretti defeat Chris Jericho. Yes, Action Andretti. He got the All Elite graphic, so he is All Elite. This was one of the funnest matches in AEW this year, and you could arguably say in the history of AEW that this was just fun. Then you had Ruby Soho defeat Ty Mello, and in the main event, MJF retained his AEW World Championship as he defeated Ricky Starks, like I said, for the AEW World Championship. So that was the results of AEW Dynamite. I would say, before I get into this card and everything, I will say this is probably the because they've had 3 so far as winners coming. I would say this ranks number 2. Me personally, I believe this winner is coming was better than last year's. And with the upset that nobody expected, the crowd didn't expect, Twitter blew up, social media blew up. It was just like, yo, what? Chris Jericho let this guy win? It was really insane. But in all honesty, this was probably, actually, the second best AEW Dynamite winner is coming episode that they've done. And one thing that I do like about this episode, and what I noticed last week, and after Full Gear, there is a momentum that they're building creatively. Now, I know a lot of people like to focus on their ratings and everything. That is a very sophisticated metric to get into. Hopefully in 2023, I'll make a video about it, but it is a very sophisticated metric, not only in wrestling, but in entertainment in general, especially with streaming services. So I won't get into this video, but yeah, they have a momentum going. And if the rumors are correct with the January 11th, that momentum is going to be seismic. And it's going to be really fun to see how that plays out if those rumors are true regarding January 11th at the Kia Forum in Los Angeles. So enough of that. Let's get into this show. So, the Elite, Death Triangle, you have Don Callis on commentary. You have a big, loud, zero medial chants. What was interesting about this match, and what I like about the matches that the Elite and Death Triangle have had so far, is that each match has felt different. Mind you, these guys have wrestled a bunch of times before this best of 7, and kudos to those guys for making each match feel different in its own way. Granted, we know Young Bucks moveset, Kenny Omega, Phoenix, Penta, Pac. We know what it means, but I like the initiative to take a different psychological approach to these matches, which you can tell. I know some people may not see it. To each its own. But for me, I notice it and I enjoy it. Then there was a point in the match where Nick Jackson did a moonsault, and I don't know if the seriousness of the injury, but when he landed, he just started limping, and he was favoring his ankle. And if it's, man, at first I'm like, man, I hope he didn't sprain his ankle, because it's like they already came back at Full Gear. It's like they don't need an injury. It's like, oh man, this sucks. Of course, they are wrestling in Jordan, so I have heard older wrestlers discuss about current wrestlers wrestling in Jordans and gym shoes, and to wrestle more in wrestling shoes because it absorbs more of the blow when you jump and land on the ground. So again, there hasn't been anything I've seen on Twitter that says that his injury is legit, or there's nothing like that. So I'm just doing this review just in what they presented on television. So he does the moonsault, he's tweaking it, tweaks his ankle, and how do I describe it? So he's on ringside, and it's only Matt Jackson and Kenny Omega for most of the match. And then afterwards, you see Nick Jackson. He comes out through the back, and the crowd's chanting, he's limping. And I like the sports feel that they've added to this best of 7, which is like, okay, let's see, wink, wink, I see what you're doing. And if you guys don't know about the sports feel that they put in this match, Tony Khan tweeted that he bought one of his favorite, purchased the rights to one of his favorite themes, and I'm going to call it how most people know it. It was the 1990s NBA on NBC theme that they played for this best of 7. I thought it was pretty cool. It just added something different. I have heard that theme in the Olympics, and I know there's people on Twitter like, oh, well, it just doesn't fit with wrestling. Well, guess what? They played it for the Olympics multiple times when the Olympics were on NBC. So it's like, hello, NBC, was it the NBC sports networks have played it on numerous of their station. So it's been synonymous with things outside of the NBA on NBC, but it is known for that. But man, this was right away. I was just like, ooh, are they going to pull it off? Are they going to do this upset and play this? Can the Young Bucks? I would have preferred the Young Bucks win this match and just have that cloud of uncertainty. Like, man, can they win being injured? But no, they went a different route. So Nick Jackson comes back. He does a cutter on Ray Phoenix. Then he tries to do a super kick, and Ray Phoenix catches his leg. And then Penta brings out the hammer, and he hits Nick Jackson's injured ankle with the hammer, which I thought was really cool, smart. And shout out to Taz. He mentioned, he's like, that's actually pretty smart. If the guy's injured and you have a hammer or a weapon and you use it, that weakens your opponent. So it makes perfect sense. So Penta hits Nick Jackson in the injured ankle. Then there's an inverted knee bar. He taps out. Death Triangle's up 3-1. After the match, you got Kenny Omega. He says, you know what? Next match, let's make the hammer legal. All weapons legal. Next week, no DQ. So that is going to be pretty much a street fight. And that should be fun. Really looking forward to where this all goes. Of course, myself and many other people just assume and anticipate and just like, yeah, it's going to go to a match 7 at the Forum in Los Angeles, January 11th. So we'll see where this goes. But this has been a treasure to watch this, and this has been really fun. I've always liked the Young Bucks work. I've loved the Pac's work, Kenny Omega's work, the Lucha Brothers work. So they just have a great chemistry, and they've had that chemistry since Double or Nothing 2019 when they wrestled in, I believe it was a tables match or something like that, or a ladders match or something like that. The Young Bucks and Lucha Bros. So I've just loved their chemistry, and it's fun watching them because it's like I don't want to say 180, but it's like a mirror image of the matches that we've seen with the New Day and the Usos just in AEW. And it's fun because you're seeing, it's like, oh wow, this is just great tag team wrestling, and it was fun. So then we get a backstage segment with MJF. He basically is pumping up and promoting his match tonight against Ricky Starks, which this had Ric Flair 1987, the old World Championship Wrestling show that they had on Saturdays that later became Saturday Night. This just had that feel when Ric Flair would face Barry Windham, Nikita Koloff, Dusty Rhodes, Magnum TA, or whoever it was on that Saturday show, and he's giving a promo, pumping. It's like, oh man, it just had those vibes, man. I loved it. So he's like, I'm already a star. He tells Ricky Starks, I'm already the guy with no pressure. And he mentioned, this was a really good line. He tells Ricky Starks, he's like, look, tonight, the pressure is going to turn that pebble into either a diamond or dust. And it's like, ooh, that's really good. And you can tell MJF is really coming into his own since he's been world champion. And it just feels like, okay, the MJF that we've been waiting and anticipating seeing, we're watching it unfold. And it is so cool to see. Then we get the Acclaim. They come out, and before they could even finish, Max Caster can finish his rhyme. And mind you, this crowd just went crazy. And I really liked them bringing out the Acclaimed. Everything else afterwards, just like, whatever, to each its own. But I really liked them bringing out the Acclaim because you just had this banger of a trios match between the Elite and Death Triangle. Then you bring out the Acclaim. So the crowd is just, the rowdiness, the enthusiasm, the just everything you like about a wrestling crowd is just going up. And then before Max can finish, you have Sanjay Dutt, Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, and Satnam Singh. They attack the Gun, Billy Gunn, Anthony Bowens, and Max Caster. Jeff Jarrett, he winds up hitting Max Caster with a guitar. and there's a loud FU chant towards Jeff Jarrett. He grabs the mic. He calls Max Caster a little bitch and slapnuts. That was basically it, and they held up the title. So apparently we are getting a tag team championship program between the Acclaimed and Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, unfortunately. I like Jeff Jarrett, but I'm not a fan of this angle. If I had the remote that from Adam Sandler's movie Click, where I can fast forward this feud to wherever is next, I would. And it's not a shot at Sanjay Dutt, Satnam Singh, Jay Lethal, and Jeff Jarrett. It doesn't fit. Like, it just doesn't fit. Now, if Jeff Jarrett was feuding with another legend, not Sting, then I could see it, but it just, like, this just isn't for me, and I just want this to just go on to something else. Then we get a backstage segment with Jericho Appreciation Society. Jericho mentions the giant swing should be banned. If you haven't seen that match, please watch that match and that finish. It's probably gone viral with the clip, but man, that was crazy how Claudio did the big swing to Chris Jericho at least 32 times, and Jericho tapped out mid swing, which made so much sense. So they mentioned that. Then Daniel Garcia is about to speak. Jericho cuts him off, and he's like, "You need more experience, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you shadow Sammy Guevara." And when he said that, you just heard this crowd go, ooh. And of course, on social media, everyone's like, yes, we're getting the beginning of Daniel Garcia's face turn and eventually leaving JAS and possibly joining the Blackpool Combat Club, which they are still feuding with them, which I hope this comes to a conclusion in the next month or two, because it's been going on for almost 7 months, and please move on to something else. So you see Sammy Guevara, he's talking about Jon Moxley and calling him out this Friday on Rampage, and he puts his arm on Daniel Garcia, and Daniel Garcia looks at him and he's brushing him off and everything, and you could tell Daniel Garcia is not a fan of this. So this is going to be really fun. This is a very creative way of Sammy Guevara being used to get Daniel Garcia over. I can't remember if they fought before. Maybe they did when Daniel Garcia first came into AEW, but when he turns in that match between Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia, that's going to be fun. Then we had Brian Cage versus Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Man, shout out to Brian Cage. This man, ever since he's come back to AEW, of course, people have said and mentioned that, he should leave. And, they pretty much didn't use him for a good part of 2021 and 2022, but he's making the most of it. Man, this match between him and Jungle Boy Jack Perry, this was a fun match. This was pretty cool. It's something about Jungle Boy Jack Perry where it seems like he's challenging giants, so to speak, the proverbial giants, which I'm all for, because if he's pretty much a wrestling version of Tarzan didn't have any fear in the story, so just go with it, man. He's gonna do what he's gonna do, and this was a fun match. So you had it was a little back and forth of Jack Perry trying to get an advantage, but then you had Brian Cage. He got the advantage, and he knocked Jungle Boy Jack Perry on the outside of the apron, and he did his typical suplex from the second rope, and as commentary said it, he suplexed him the hard way, which was just boop, hit him. I couldn't take that move. Then you had, at another point in the match, you had Brian Cage doing bicep curls with Jungle Boy Jack Perry. He's just like nothing. And he did this, he did this Saturday to one of the boys with Dalton Castle, where he just curled him like nothing, which that's pretty cool and impressive. Like, if he's a heel and he's a big muscle bound heel, like doing stuff like that. That actually makes a lot of sense. Then you had Brian Cage execute a full Nelson driver, which that was a crazy move to do. Then eventually you had Jungle Boy Jack Perry counter a lariat into a Canadian destroyer. Didn't get the pin. Then you had Prince Nana. This was a little bit clunky executing that they, executed because it was just like certain things were like slow and like there was a nice pace and then it just slowed down and do 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 do. And by that, Prince Nana was on the apron, and then it took a while for Brian Cage to, or someone, one of the two, hit Prince Nana, and then you had a roll-up pin by Jungle Boy Jack Perry. 1, 2, 3. He wins and defeats Brian Cage. Doesn't hurt Brian Cage, but that was a really, that was the first surprise win on tonight's AEW Dynamite. Jungle Boy Jack Perry, he gets the mic. He calls out Big Bill, which is formerly W. Morrissey, and calls him out. He walks up the ramp, and then you have Lee Moriarty just come out. Actually, no, you didn't have Lee Moriarty. You had Stokely Hathaway. He walks down. He's telling him to shut up, and you're just a little hoe and all that stuff. So he's walking down, and then you have Jungle Boy Jack Perry running up towards him, and then Lee Moriarty hits him, and then you get Big Bill hit Jungle Boy. So they're in the ring, they're beating him up, and all of a sudden, music hits, lights go off, and it's Hook. Nobody expected Hook to come out and make the save. He comes out and everybody scatters, and he lifts up Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and you have this moment where they're looking at each other, and they lift it, and it's like, ooh, this is a pretty good tag team. Hook and Jungle Boy. Did not know that was a tag team I needed to see, but man, I'm really excited to see where this goes. This is fun. Jungle Boy Jack Perry, you can tell since Full Gear and even before that, he's gone very aggressive and physical. Actually, most of AEW, they've amped up the aggressiveness and, if you want to call it, the proverbial sense of urgency, and they are really landed in. And man, I'm excited to see what's going to happen with Jungle Boy and Hook, because those are two of their pillars that, man, this is going to be fun. And when Hook came out, man, that crowd went like loud, man. He came out in his sweatshirt and his joggers and just came out, and he just walked straight to the ring and walked out. And it's so cool that he doesn't say anything, but man, that I believe this was not Jungle Boy. I believe this was Hook's first Dynamite save, I believe, on Dynamite. I could be wrong. Comment below if that is true. I believe that is his first AEW Dynamite save, but it was so cool to see him on Dynamite because most of the time he's on Rampage. So there's really cool moments, and man, like I said, I'm excited to see where this goes. Then you had a backstage segment with the Blackpool Combat Club. Moxley says, we made a statement. You have Claudio saying 2023, we're putting everyone on notice. And Moxley like, yeah, I'm gonna stump out one last worm and Sammy Guevara this Friday on Rampage. And then Moxley calls out Hangman Page. And I am starting to think if we don't get some match next month, I do believe this could be a match at AEW Revolution. And that is going to be crazy. And I believe a match like that, I don't think it's going to be a chain match, but I do think it's going to be a Falls Count Anywhere match, which I'm all for that, especially with those two guys. So he calls out Hangman Page. He's like, you know where to find me, and bring your Dark Order boys. And it's like, ooh, those are fighting words. But yeah, I believe that's a feud that we're going to see at AEW Revolution in February from the Chase Center in Oakland, or phrase that, San Francisco. Then we get a recap of Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee and that whole incident situation that happened at Final Battle. Shane Strickland Swerve Strickland, forgive me. Swerve Strickland. He said, "You threw it all in my face. I have no family or friends. I have affiliates. And next week, we go face to face in San Antonio." So, are we going to see, what are we going to see Swerve do? Are we going to see him bring out some help to attack Keith Lee? What's gonna happen with this? This is gonna be really interesting how this plays out. They've been teasing it for months, and we're finally getting it. So in San Antonio, Keith Lee, Swerve Strickland, they're gonna have this face to face. So we'll see where this goes and how this plays out. I'm excited for it because 2023 is gonna be a really big year for Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee, and man, let's see where this goes. Is Shane Strickland and JD Griffey going to have some involvement in this segment? It did, Saturday's tag team match, it did have a vibe that, man, is Swerve Strickland joining Shane Taylor and JD Griffey, or what's going on there? So we shall see. Then we get the House of Black versus the Factory. This was a quick match, but it was so fun to see the House of Black. Man, these guys, whew, please put those trios titles on them ASAP, because they, as Gorilla Monsoon said, the immovable object and the irresistible force. And the House of Black are both of those statements. So you get the Factory, you got, Jordan Carter, Nick Camarado and Solo and QT Marshall. And they're all in the ring, and Julia Hart steps up to Nick Camarado, and he's kind of just being a jerk and just looking down on her, being very condescending, and he takes the toothpick, which I don't know why he's trying to do Razor Ramon, because it's just like, dude, there's certain things you just don't do, even though it's been a while, but that's Scott Hall thing. Like, just, you're not doing it with the charisma that he did. So he takes a toothpick, he throws it in Julia Hart's face. She picks it up, looks at him, and she blows the mist in his face, and he gets blind, and freaking Buddy Matthews and Brody King, they beat the crap out of Solo, Camarado, and Carter. QT Marshall is left in the ring, and as they're doing this, they get a shot of Malachi Black just sitting in the ring corner, with his legs folded, just sitting there, no emotion or nothing, just sitting there looking at QT Marshall. Once that happens, once they finish beating him up, you get Malachi, and he stands up. You get Buddy Matthews, you get Julia Hart, you get Brody King. They're all on the apron, and QT Marshall's just like, and you hear this loud welcome back chants, and all Malachi Black does is just a spinning kick and pins him. That's it. That was it. And man, I like how they're booking the House of Black. This is so entertaining. It's so to the point, and they're not saying much. They just come in, beat the hell out of people, and they've done it so far. And of course, we know a couple weeks ago they put Brandon Cutler through the table. So that whole the Elite versus the House of Black, I don't believe the Elite have had an opponent that had like a supernatural, spooky theme. So it's going to be really interesting when that plays out between the Elite and the House of Black, because Malachi Black versus Kenny Omega, Buddy Matthews versus Kenny Omega, man, those matches are going to be awesome. So then we get a recap of Shida versus Hayter, which is going to be next week on AEW Dynamite. Then we get a backstage interview between Britt Baker and Rebel. Of course, everyone's cheering, and for me, I was anticipating, okay, Saraya's going to come out and he's going to talk and something. No, we didn't have any mention of that tag team match that's on January 11th. They mentioned it last week. There was no mention from what I saw on tonight's episode. Comment below if there was a mention on AEW Dynamite regarding the Jamie Hayter, Britt Baker versus Saraya and her mystery partner. There hasn't been anything, and honestly, it's starting to really have the vibes of when CM Punk debuted, where uh, Darby Allin gives a promo and best in the world and things like that. They haven't made any references to the rumor that is going around regarding Saraya's partner potentially being Sasha Banks or Mercedes Moné. But it does have that feel. A lot of people compared it to not only the CM Punk debut, but the Jon Moxley when he debuted, that you just got this vibe like, man, is he going? Like, is he going? So it just has that vibe, and the anticipation for that match is very, very high, and it's starting to grow as the days goes on. So in this segment, Britt Baker's like, Sheeta beating Hayter isn't a thing, and then Sky Blue interrupts, and she's like, you know what? I want to challenge you on Rampage. So this Friday, we're getting Sky Blue versus Jamie Hayter, and me personally, how do I say this? I want to give a shout out to all the AEW women wrestlers because they have done a tremendous job in the last month. They have taken their skill set and just their presentation to another level. Granted, I would have liked more matches tonight from the women, but I do think in 2023 we are going to get a shuffle of women's matches more on Dynamite and Rampage, especially if the surprise for Saraya is Sasha Banks, because you don't bring in somebody of that magnitude and have one women's match a week or on Dynamite and Rampage. No, you're going to do a few and a probably mixed tag, but shout out to the AEW women's division. Like, they have had some really terrific matches. Athena, Ty Mello, Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, Tony Storm, Saraya, Sheeta, Jade Cargill, Kiera Hogan, Red Velvet. You know, when she came back, like, man, 2023 is going to be a really good year for AEW's women's division. So yeah, this Friday we're getting Sky Blue versus Britt Baker. From there, we get the craziest, unexpected match of the night, or the unexpected win of the night. Chris Jericho versus Action Andretti. So again, Jericho comes out. There's a bunch of "you tapped out" chants. He does a lariat in the corner, and of course Andretti, he gets a few offensive moves in. And this match went from, okay, yeah, we know he's going to get an offense, and then Jericho's probably going to do the Judas effect, or he's going to get him in the Lion Tamer, and then that's it. The match is over. And you saw moments of that, and then there was a moment where Action Andretti kicked out, and this crowd just got up off their feet and like cheered him. I don't know if it's because they just dislike Chris Jericho, but they got up, and man, this match just went from, oh, this is going to be a quick squash match, to probably one of the most legendary matches in AEW history. So Andretti, he gets some offense. There's power chants. Jericho connects the Codebreaker. Andretti kicks out. Then the crowd, like I said, they come alive, and they're just, man, they're into it. The crowd is chanting Action Andretti. Then Action Andretti, he executes a backbreaker, then a neck breaker. Then there's a point where Action misses a moonsault. Then Jericho attempts to do the Lion Tamer, and then there he misses. Andretti does a flip, rolls him up. 1, 2, 3. Action Andretti defeated Chris Jericho on Dynamite. A lot of people have compared it to when the 1, 2, 3 Kid defeated Razor Ramon on Monday Night Raw. I see that similarity. I also see the similarity of when Chris Jericho was on WCW Monday Nitro, and he was going to face Scott Hall, and Scott Hall was supposed to win, and Scott Hall's like, you know what? You never win here. I'll get you over. And that match actually propelled Chris Jericho into what we know today. So yeah, this match, did not expect this. This was a fun match. Go back and watch this match. Um, I don't honestly move wise, it's pretty basic or anything like it, but it's the crowd and how they played to the crowd and Jericho's facial expression and just how he lived up to it. Man, this was such a fun match to watch. Um, I will say personally, and mind you, you guys who are my subscribers and you follow me on social media and stuff like that in House of Wrestling, you guys know I watch a lot of wrestling. I will say this is one of the funnest matches I enjoyed this whole year. Like, this was a fun match. The crowd was into it, didn't expect it, and Chris Jericho, who, granted, love, hey man, he's talented and everything, but it's like, I don't like the Jericho Appreciation Society. Like, can we get this over with and move on to something? And to have that win is just like, oh my God, this is so awesome. And man, that crowd, shout out to that Austin crowd, man. They put Action Andretti over. And of course, we got the All Elite graphic from Tony Khan. And man, that was a fun crowd, man. Just thinking about it gives me goosebumps. And after this review, I'm probably going to watch it again because it was just the crowd. You didn't expect and anticipate that crowd to cheer Action Andretti that way, and then him to pick up the win. Like, you did not expect that, and the crowd was just into it, man. That's what pro wrestling is. That's what sports entertainment is. When you have fans so invested in a match that it's organic. Like, that whole match was just organic, where it's like, yeah, like I said, Jericho's gonna win, blah blah blah, yeah, whatever. And then as the match goes on, just like, they're just gonna tease it, and then Jericho's gonna win. And then after a while, you're like, hey man, this guy might win. And then he wins, you're like, yo, this dude won? Like, what? So I mean, this was a fun match, man. Go back and check it out. We get a backstage segment with Ricky Starks, and he's like, I'm a stylish MFer. Don't forget who I am, because the name, what do you say? Don't forget the name, because no one will forget the face. Really cool line, and I really liked his emotion, his inflection in this promo. Again, MJF gave his promo earlier in the night. Ricky Starks gave his promo. Both these guys sold this match, and man, when I get to that match, man, I really like this match. Then we get a video package of FTR, and they mention how the Gum Club attacked them at Final Battle, and they want to end FTR's legacy. And then FTR, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheel, they're like, you know what? You got our attention. All right, cool. So eventually, we're probably going to get a match between these two teams in the next coming weeks. Then we get Ty Mello versus Ruby Soho. Man, this was a physical match. And kudos to AEW, because usually at this time slot, it's unfortunate that it's known as the women's time slot. But for this episode, I will say, because this episode was very well paced, when this match came on, I did not think of what the time slot it was in. It was just like, yo, we're getting another dope match. All right, cool. And mind you, this was right after the Action Andretti upset over Chris Jericho. So the crowd was just already went to another level. So they were just like, all right, cool. But man, this match, you had Tay Conti. She kicked Ruby Soho as she was on the apron during her entrance. This just got really physical. Later on, you had Ruby Soho get the advantage, and then she executed 3 back suplexes. Then you had Tay Conti execute a spinning DDT on the entrance ramp, which great camera shot, and Tay Conti sold that DDT. It was like, ooh, that's nasty. From there, we had Tay Conti. She was in the ring. She executed a beautiful running kick. Just, man, like, this was a very good match. It was one of their better matches between Tay Conti and Ruby Soho. Then you had a chop exchange. And one thing I did notice, and I'm starting to notice with the AEW women's matches in the last month, they're adding a lot of elements from Joshi. And if you guys don't know what Joshi Wrestling is the women wrestlers in Japan, especially from Stardom. Like, please go watch those matches. Those matches are, man, that's a beautiful work of art. And man, they're starting to lay in some forearms, some chops, and man, these AEW women are just, like I said, AEW Women's Division in 2023 is going to be must-see TV. Mark my words. Then, after the chop exchange, later on, you had a pile driver that Ty Conte executed and Ruby Soho kicked out. Then that led to Ruby Soho executing the Destination Unknown pin. 1, 2, 3, she wins. She's celebrating. Then you got Anna Jay coming out. She attacks Ruby Soho and she executes, man, what's her finishing move? But it was basically a back, front splash thingamajigga, where Ruby Soho landed on her face, which is like, ooh, damn, that was nasty. And you got Anna Jay and Ty Mello celebrating, so that adds more to their feud. And you know what? Another thing about what AEW is doing with their women's division, they're actually putting some very cohesive stories around the women's division where it's like, okay, this makes sense. And now, for me personally, I would love if they add the mixed tag element to it where you have men involved in these storylines and just add a little bit more substance to it, where it's just like, this is an extra, all right, I like this. Then we get a backstage segment with Hangman Page getting checked up on the doctors, and he gives a story of what happened, where he remembered everything, but he didn't remember his son's name because he looked at his phone and he couldn't remember his name. And that was a very good promo by Hangman Adam Page. And man, I think we're going to get a more grittier Hangman Page going into 2023. Like I mentioned before, I would not be surprised if we get Moxley versus Hangman Page at Revolution, Falls Count Anywhere match. And he says he'll see Moxley at Rampage. So we're going to get another encounter between Jon Moxley and Hangman Adam Page. I like that feud. I like that matchup because both men complement each other and they're brawlers. So it put two brawlers together and you're going to get some wild stuff. And then we get a backstage segment of Dustin Rhodes and the Best Friends and Danhausen, and they're basically calling out Butcher and the Blade, Kip Sabian, and Trent Seven for an 8-man tag on Rampage. And they also mentioned we're going to get Jon Moxley, Sammy Guevara. We're going to get Sky Blue and Britt Baker. Then they go on the Dynamite rundown. Of course, we're getting Jamie Hayter and Shida. Then we're getting FTR versus the Gun Club, which should be really cool. Fun times in AEW. So from there, we get the main event. Man, oh man. Ricky Starks, MJF. There was a lot of pro wrestling callbacks on this match. Not specifically matches, like, Steamboat Flair and Arn Anderson and who did he fight for the TV title? The Andersons versus the Midnight Express. Like, none of those callbacks. It was just old school wrestling tactics. There's a lot of chain wrestling. Oh my God, I can't remember the freaking move, but man, there was just a lot of callbacks. Watch this match. This was a very good match. And even though MJF won, Ricky Starks came out of it like, okay, he got that main event rub. And by main event rub, it isn't necessarily like, okay, now he's, okay, he didn't have it before, but now he's had it. Like, he always had it, but this is just like, okay, this established him like, okay, he's in the main event now. But man, you had MJF. He was mocking Ricky Starks. He was doing a lot of Ric Flair, just strutting and everything. It was just like, ooh, okay, you're doing that. He stopped. There's a point in the match where MJF, he stuck his thumb in the eye of Ricky Starks. Then he had him in an ab stretch, which I love that classic old school move where you put your leg over and you have the guy stretch like this, and you see him with his fist and he's twisted in his abs that he stretches. Like, ooh, man, that's so good. Then later on in the match, you had uh, uh, the spinning DDT by Ricky Starks. What I also liked about this crowd, and I think they're starting to do it in a lot of every AEW crowds, and I believe it started in, maybe it started at Final Battle, but whenever there's a count, whether it's outside the ring or punches, the crowd is going, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, ocho, 9. I like that, man. That's so damn cool and fun. I enjoy it. So yeah, you had the spinning DDT by Ricky Starks. Then, of course, you had a bunch of "This is awesome" chants with this match. Then there was a MJF. He slapped Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks slapped him. Then they just started exchanging forearms, which that crowd just, yeah, like, man, this was a good match. Then you had MJF. He kicked out of a pin, and man, he played possum so damn well with this, because he laid there, he took the pin, 1, 2, and then he turned it into an armbar. And as Ricky Stark is trying to reach for the arm, with his right arm, he grabs that and pulls it back. And then when he's trying to use his other leg, MJF grabs that. Like, he had him in a position that was like, yo, Ricky Stark's going to tap out like this? Like, yo, that's crazy. Like, this was I haven't seen MJF do this in any of the matches that he wrestled, which is not a lot because he rarely wrestles, but there's a reason for that. So yeah, you had that. Ricky Starks escapes with the foot. Then they're getting back and forth, and then all of a sudden, MJF, he grabs the ref, and Ricky Starks walks to him, and then he throws the ref, and then he kicks him, he low blows him, and then what did he did a pile driver or what have you. Pinned him, 1, 2, 3. So MJF retains the AEW World Championship. He grabs the belt. He walks to the back, and music hits. Bryan Danielson. Yes, Bryan Danielson came out. He chases MJF around the ringside. Then MJF runs up the stairs through the crowd, and he's looking on, and he's holding up the belt, and Bryan Danielson's pointing at him. So there you go. We're going to get Bryan Danielson and MJF. Hopefully not on a Dynamite, but I do think this will be a match at Revolution, which, ooh, man, that's going to be good. Bryan Danielson, MJF. And you know what? Shout out to MJF, because this match really showed his repertoire as a wrestler. And shout out to Ricky Starks. Like, these guys wrestled. This was a wrestling match. I felt like I was watching a match from WCW in like 1989-90 with a lot of the things that they were doing. The way MJF's mannerism, the few moves that he did, the few moves that Ricky Starks did, trying to do a power bomb and the guy doesn't sell it, and then, like, I love that stuff. And this was a really good match, and if you haven't watched this match, or you're like on the fence, watch this match, because this was a very good match. So, man, this was a wonderful Dynamite. I enjoyed it. Man, I want to watch this. I want to watch this episode. I am going to watch the Action Andretti Chris Jericho match again. But man, this is my review for AEW Dynamite. Man, this was a good show. This was a very good show. The surprise win from Action Andretti on Chris Jericho. A great main event from MJF and Ricky Starks. A banger of an opening match between the Elite and Death Triangle. And man, just a overall good feel after you watch this show, and just a good momentum going into 2023 by AEW, which, if we look at it last year, really didn't have that momentum that they have now, and it's just very cool to have. And as a fan, wrestling fan, and as a fan of AEW, this is just fun to see, and look forward to next week's episode. And again, for me, I'm really looking forward to that January 11th episode from Los Angeles, from the Forum, and who is Saraya's mystery partner as they face Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. Who is the mystery partner? That's the question. Man, oh man. We just got to wait and see. So that is my review for AEW Dynamite. Winter is coming. December 14th, 2022. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notifications whenever you're notified when House of Wrestling drops its latest content. Follow me, Dedrian180, on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, man, let's just have some fun with pro wrestling because the next month to 3 months are just going to be awesome. WrestleMania, Wrestle Kingdom, the Dynamites, Revolution, Impact, another Wrestle Kingdom date later on in January, man. Let's enjoy it, man. This is fun, man. Christmas for wrestling fans. There you go. With that, I'm out.